Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan unveiled his new cabinet over the weekend, bringing together fresh faces and seasoned technocrats. The appointments were made just a week after President Erdogan's election victory. All but two of the country's ministers were replaced, signaling what many are calling a fresh direction for both the economy and foreign policy. Former Deputy Prime Minister and Economist Mehmet Simsek will be leading the Ministry of Finance as Türkiye continues to see inflation rates fall sharply from stubbornly high levels last year. Hakan Fidan, the longtime head of the National Intelligence Agency, MIT, has been appointed Turkey's top diplomat, replacing Mevlut Cavusoglu after 8 years. The appointments come after President Erdogan was sworn in for another 5-year term. Dozens of foreign heads of state and government attended the inauguration ceremony, including Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg was also in attendance and met with President Erdogan after the ceremony. And to further discuss President Erdogan's inauguration and the appointment of the new cabinet, joining me now from Istanbul is Talha Köse. He is the director of SETA Brussels. From Ankara, Tudor Oneo, he is an assistant professor at Bilkent University. Also from Trieste, Italy, Federico Donelli is an assistant professor at University of Trieste. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Talha, let me begin with you. 36 foreign heads of state and government attended President Erdogan's inauguration ceremony on Sunday. How significant was this?
I think it's very important because in the last couple of months, there were some rumors, negative campaign against Erdogan in many Western outlets. There were lots of criticism about his policies, his personality. So, there was a certain smear campaign against him. So there was a very clear and clean election victory for President Erdogan and his party in the parliament. So this is a significant event and acceptance of international community about his legitimacy, his presence, and his, I think, personality. I mean, he's not just the head of state, but at the same time, a leader that comments on regional affairs, global affairs, tries to emphasize certain principles in international affairs. So I think it's a very significant issue, acceptance of President Erdogan again, despite all these criticism, all these negative campaign.
So, Federico, what do you make of the international reaction to Erdogan's re-election victory for a third term? I mean, how do you see it from Italy?
Of course, there were very different reactions from the West and we can say from the global South. And I think that is important to stress, especially the global South, because if we analyze the media and campaign within the global South media newspaper, you can find very enthusiastic reaction. And this is in some way, this is show how Turkey has been able to establish an important role in the global affairs and specifically an important role in relation with the global South countries.
So, Tudor, what do you think would be the new cabinet's priorities? I mean, where the economy and foreign policy stand moving forward?
Well, you start where you left off, essentially. So there's still a lot of unfinished business. And, that would have been the case whoever won the election. And this is why, I think that some of the Western media perception that had the opposition won, things would have changed completely was wrong, right? Because they would have faced the same situation. And in most cases, they would have probably done the same things, right? So we still have the situation in the East Mediterranean. We still have a war in Ukraine that demands a resolution. And Turkey is trying to to broker a peaceful understanding. There is, of course, the matter of Syria, right, which is still on the table, and these are going to be, I would say, probably the three bigger issues in terms of foreign policy, plus a lot of other smaller issues, such as what happens with the Swedish bid to NATO.
Yes,
and of course, besides this, you have the economy on top of it.
So, Talha, speaking of economy, President Erdogan said he will continue to fight inflation. Do you expect new economic policies to be put in place in fighting both the inflation and rising living costs under Finance Minister Mehmet Simsek?
I think certain priorities will stay. I mean, President Erdogan's economic policy is based on production, export, and stability. Definitely in the past, financial stability and monetary stability was an issue. So international markets, international banks were critical about Turkey's unorthodox economic policies, which prevented flow of FDI and money. So I think with this new team, Mehmet Simsek as the head and the professional actors that would help and assist him, I think there will be a more significant financial flow to the Turkish economy, and those financial flows is more likely to generate more production and more exports. So I think the priorities will not change, but with a little bit more orthodox policies and a team that will give more similarity to policies that are in line with the orthodox policies. This team will attract more attention and more financial inflow to Turkey.
So, Federico, where does Turkish diplomacy stand in the broader alignment of the region and Ankara's need to attract more foreign investment to put the Turkish economy back on track?
The position that Turkey has assumed during the last 2 years is very important to explain how Turkey is trying to attract new investment, especially from the Gulf monarchies, and the normalization process with some Arab states is a key issue for Turkey also in economic terms, but at the same time we have to consider Western traditional ally and specifically European countries. Mm-hmm. European countries are an important asset for Turkish economy in the coming future.
So Tudor, how will economy be integrated with the foreign policy in the new term? Will they go hand in hand?
They might, but there are two issues here. Well, one of them is if you have to fix the economy, you have to reduce expenses. And this means some of foreign policy initiatives should be sort of played down, curtailed, maybe altogether. Priorities might have to be established. So you cannot do whatever you did before simply because you don't have enough money to go around. So this is definitely one area in which the two overlap. The other one might be the fact that the more contention exists between Turkey and particularly its Western partners, this might produce also economic repercussions in terms of reluctance of particularly Western investors to be involved with Türkiye. So this is something to keep in mind. It's not, by the way, a sort of sine qua non. So you shouldn't really upset or pursue your national interest just because investors won't come. But you have to hedge your bets.
So, Talha, among the striking names who attended Erdogan's inauguration ceremony were Cuban Prime Minister Mariano Cruz and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Also, interestingly, Brazil's far-left Workers' Cause Party, known for its staunch opposition to imperialism, has called Erdogan's election victory a triumph over imperialism in the Middle East. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, we know that mainstream Western actors, including United States, EU, are critical about Erdogan, his regional policies, his criticism of the world system, the world is bigger than five, his criticism about the regional policies and some of the mistakes. And we know that those actors were in favor of opposition in Turkey. So they wanted to have a Turkey without Erdogan, where they can engage more, in their interests. So I think Turkey criticized those actors and international institutions and failure of these institutions in Africa, Latin America, in the MENA region and other regions. I think these criticisms generated some sympathy both among the leaders as well as the populations, and also demonstrated solidarity with actors like Venezuela when they were under stress. I think these solidarities and public and popular support for Erdogan is related to his policies and his discourse and his distinctive discourse in international affairs.
So So, Federica, is it surprising to you that most of the Latin American countries, despite being far away from Turkey, were quite interested in Erdogan's victory? I mean, what is that signaling to you?
It was not a surprise. I mean, since 2005, Turkey established good relationship with Latin American countries, and they try to foster its global South projection. So I think that it is important to understand the moment that we are living, that we are witnessing, during which the global international order is transforming, and Turkey is trying to find its place. And this place sometimes could be perceived in between the so-called global South and the West, sometimes in between the West and the East. But this is important because it could play a very important role in the upcoming years.
So, Tudor, we saw over the past years, Turkey is really pushing to engage with Latin America. Will we see more of that engagement in the years to come, especially with the new foreign policy team?
I believe so, although, I mean, it is a little difficult to discuss right now what the priorities might be for the new foreign policy team. From the composition, it looks like the priority number one is going to try and reestablish good relations with countries in the Middle East, particularly Arab countries. Egypt is probably the one country to watch. I would personally be skeptical of the success of this initiative. So it is indeed possible that once this, will not play out as expected, Turkey might look further out, right, to other regions as well. And in fact, this whole exercise shows that, if anything, it shows the increased importance of Turkey as a player in Europe, in the Middle East, and in the world. Maybe, who knows? I mean, in the future, it might even be invited to BRIC reunions if it continues to go this way.
So, Talha, Kazakhstan's president also attended the inauguration ceremony, although Turkey's ties were already growing with the Central Asian countries in the last decade. They have accelerated over the past and a half year due to Russia's attack on Ukraine. So will we see more of that engagement with Central Asian countries through international groupings like the Organization of Turkic States?
So one of the most significant initiatives of Turkey in the last decade probably is the strengthening of the Organization of Turkic States. I think this is strategically one of the priorities of Turkey. So trying to improve it at the level of economy, diplomacy, at the same time, defense. I think generating such a group of cluster of countries and having coordinated efforts in international relations, as well as having economic ties and strengthening energy linkage, and also it is an access way to Asia, so between Europe to Asia, so strengthening the middle corridor. So I think this area is significantly strategically very significant, and Turkey's involvement and investment in the Organization of Turkic States will strengthen even the ties at political, diplomatic, and defense level. I think this will be a permanent element of Turkey's upcoming foreign policy, and all these actors will play. I think they're also interested in supporting this.
So, Federica, Talha mentioned the middle corridor. How would a deepened cooperation between Turkey and Central Asian countries add to China's Belt and Road Initiative, as well as energy security across the wider region?
Well, that's very important because everybody talk about the relationship or the balancing of Turkey between the West and Russia. But the most important things in the upcoming decade would be most probably the role that Turkey will play with China, in the relationship with China, and especially how Turkey will try to strengthen its position in Central Asia, but also on the Mediterranean Sea in relation with the infrastructure project of China. And that would be definitely an important asset of the energy and security policy of Turkey.
So, Tudor, moving a little bit closer, we know that Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan also attended the inauguration ceremony. What's your take on that? And is this a sign that Turkey's mediation between Azerbaijan and Armenia will take a more constructive shape moving forward?
Well, it definitely shows the importance of Türkiye in the Caucasus. And it certainly this has hasn't been lost on Armenia, and it might actually generate, and we will have to see how this proceeds. It might generate a thaw, a détente, right, in the relations between the two countries. There was speculation of the possibility of the border being reopened in the aftermath of the earthquake. So this, we could see a step in that direction, and it would. The reason why I'm saying this should be taken very gingerly is that we also have to assess Azerbaijan's reaction to an eventual Turkish-Armenian détente, which I would say would be in the advantage of both states, but might disadvantage Azerbaijan.
But can we say a lasting peace, a real possibility in the South Caucasus now?
I would say this is a policy of small steps. So trying to make sure that, that the existing status quo holds, and that, normal diplomatic relations are being restored would be the first order of the day, and we will proceed from there.
So, Talha, moving to NATO, NATO's chief Stoltenberg also met with President Erdogan and Turkey's new foreign minister, Hakan Fidan, where he called on Türkiye not to delay Sweden's membership bid. How is that going to play out? And is Sweden's membership imminent now? And has it fulfilled its obligations?
No, actually, there was a clear memorandum of understanding, that was signed in Madrid last year in NATO Leaders Summit. So one of the central pillars of this memorandum was coming to same understanding of security challenges and countering terrorism threat to especially Turkey, which is a major concern. So far we have seen that some of the terrorist organizations, including PKK, FETÖ, and some other extreme left organizations, are still functional at Sweden. So they have new legislation with regard to countering terrorism. But if we look at the practice of these legislation, these laws, I think the financially, in terms of organizational affairs, those terrorist actors are still active in Sweden, and there is no sign that they will return some of the members to Turkey. So I think so far some items of the Madrid memorandum is missing. So I think Turkey will try to follow whether these legislation will be put into action.
So, Federico, how would a possible delay of Sweden's membership impact Ankara's relations with the alliance as well as the United States?
When we talk about the NATO-Turkey relationship, we have to say always that NATO ally, and especially United States, needs Turkey as far as Turkey needs the Western ally. That doesn't mean that it's not possible to reshape relationship in a different manner. And most important things, I believe that the NATO and the traditional and Western partner should understand that Turkey is looking for more strategic autonomy. But when we talk about strategic autonomy, that is a priority in Turkish agenda, we cannot consider this like a break with the ally. At the same time, we have to consider that Turkey as well should be prepared to concede something to the NATO.
So, Tudor, if approved by Turkey, how would Sweden's membership in NATO impact Ankara-Moscow ties? I mean, is it likely to put some strain on them?
Yes, but nowadays Russia has so few friends that it cannot really alienate those it has. So this will definitely, and I believe that Russia will understand that in the end, Turkey is a NATO member and it has to show loyalty to the alliance, which is, by the way, a very important consideration why ultimately Sweden will have to be included. This, by the way, you shouldn't just include Sweden because there is pressure on you. This is actually a bad precedent and encourages you to yield to more pressure. But Sweden should actually take concrete steps. So this is not just about passing laws, but also about enacting them.
So, Taha, we have been mentioning Turkey's new foreign minister's name, Hakan Fidan. What kind of an additional role do you think he, as a former spy chief, undertake during his tenure?
I think he has already significant experience in terms of important security files, important diplomatic ties. So he knows the security situation in Syria very well, in Iraq very well. He has engaged in countering terrorism issue. And with NATO and in Ukraine crisis, he also played a significant role. And for the normalization process with Gulf countries, with Egypt, Turkish intelligence played significant role. I think this appointment will strengthen the security pillar of Turkish diplomacy, and he will take more significant initiatives in dealing with the difficult issues. So I think there will be more, correlation between diplomacy and security in this ground. And I think he is quite equipped to deal with difficult foreign policy items, files in the coming maybe weeks.
So, Federico, the Syrian conflict and the repatriation of millions of refugees seem to be one of the hottest topics that Türkiye and Fidan will have to deal with. How do you think it is going to play out? And do you believe that there is now a common ground between Ankara and Damascus for a resettlement?
I believe that there is a common ground. That the common ground is that for both the solution, the normalization would be a win-win solution. Of course, there are still many challenges. The most important one is the fact that both countries perceive there is a mutual perception of a reliable country. So they have to invest more on the trust building, on dialogue. And the common ground, of course, would be to normalize the border, normalize in terms of security for Turkey and for Syria as well. So most probably in the upcoming months, Hakan Fidan would stress a lot on the relationship with Syria, and thanks to also to the good relation with Russia and with the Gulf monarchies that could operate as a broker between Assad and Turkey.
So, Tudor, moving to another neighbor, what impact would Erdogan's re-election make in Turkey's other neighbors, like Greece? Is this likely to give leverage to former Prime Minister Mitsotakis to win the next elections this month?
Well, it seems that both actors are going to stay the same, and to a large extent, they know each other. Since the issue hasn't moved forward, I don't think that there is going to be a huge amount of progress in this relation. We will have to. I would bet on a Mitsotakis victory, and so chances are we are going to see more of the same dance in the East Mediterranean. But as you put it now, it's a sort of holding pattern for Turkey, and Turkey would be more interested in what is going on right now in the Arab world, Syria, etc.
So, Talha, now that Türkiye and Egypt relations are set to normalize further with the reappointment of ambassadors, what would normalized ties with Türkiye mean for Egypt's sovereign rights in the Eastern Mediterranean? And do you expect a more inclusive formation taking place in the region where Turkish concerns are taken into consideration?
Yes, my expectation on this regard is very positive. However, Turkey and Egypt cannot resolve their issues in the Eastern Mediterranean in a standalone way. So other actors should be included. And I think Turkey has already improved ties with some other actors, including Israel, including Jordan. So there are still problems with Greek Cypriots, problems with Greece. And maybe in this ground, if Turkey and Egypt work together, I think normalization in Libya is more likely. So this may be handled more constructively. However, this and also the project with regard to Eastern Mediterranean pipeline can be much easier, but still Greece and also Greek Cypriots position in this regard is not completely overlapping with Turkey and Egypt's position. But I think this will facilitate further solution, because one of the claims of Greece at the moment was Turkey was isolated in the region. So right now, the normalization process strengthens Turkey's position and includes into Eastern Mediterranean formula in a more constructive way.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.